because they accept grad students based on different things.
You get a little bit of an introduction and then you kind of just wing it.
Jump right into it. So first you want to kind of like narrow down a topic. It's okay to start really, really big.
But maybe the best thing to do is then going back to Google Scholar and typing in the faculty names and see what they recently published.
Yeah, honestly, for some of the schools, I was just going like professor by professor, and then you kind of like cross off the list.
And they have to be sent from your school.
From your school, yeah, to... Gosh. Closer. Alright. Hi, my name is Alexis.
Hi, I'm Michi. Today we're here to talk about how to apply to grad school if you're an international student like me.
And I'm a third-year PhD student in biological oceanography at University of Hawaii at Manoa. And
I'm at the same university. Yeah, I'm also at UH Manoa. I'm in the second language studies department. I'm also in my third year, second semester. And I came here from Germany. I did a master's in the US too, but also one in Germany. So I want to tell you about my experience, what it's like to apply to a PhD or a different grad school, like a master's, when you come from a different country.
And this will probably be more specific to the US.
Yeah.
International students going to grad school in the US. Yeah.
Right.
These are some tips, tricks, things to know, things you really want to know, things you should have known before starting.
Yeah, and you can always ask us questions too in the comments section. Anything you want to know, let us know and we can help you.
All right, let's get started.
Yeah, so I know you made a video previously about how to apply to grad school.
Yeah.
Just in general, if you're a US citizen, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of started with, how do you know grad school is for you? What even is grad school? What are some of the differences between a master's and a PhD? Also, the two most important things like funding and advisor. Then just went over general requirements for the online application, stuff like that, transcripts. So you can check out that video if you want a little more information, but that's not specific to international students, just kind of in general.
Yeah, but I think that's a good timeline of what to cover in this video.
So
what I can think of as maybe the biggest difference to know right away is that in the US, if you do a PhD program, you have to take classes. And those classes, they're the first 2 years. They are pretty similar to our master's programs classes. Lots of seminars, some lectures. But you need to do that before you really get to start working on your PhD. But still, when you start your PhD, you should have a good overview of what you want to research, even though that might change later after you took your classes.
Right. Our PhD, at least in oceanography, the first 2 years, master's and PhD students are all taking the same number of courses.
Right.
Yeah. The only difference is in a master's, you're producing that thesis after, which is significantly shorter than your dissertation.
Right. If you go for a PhD, you have 2 or 3 or 4 more years of doing your own research. And for a master's, you're trying to get done after your coursework, kind of.
Yeah. That's why PhDs in the US typically are around, they say 4 to 6, but I feel like it's more like 5 to 7
years.
Yeah, because the first 2 you're just taking courses, then you have 3 years of your research.
Right. And there's advantages and disadvantages to it, especially if you feel like you haven't really found your topic yet or just want to learn more from other professors, then maybe the US is definitely a good choice for you. And maybe that's also how we can start talking about professors, because one professor in your department is going to be your advisor. An advisor just means that they are the one you reach out to in the first place. You say, hey, I want to work with you. I like what you're working on. I want you to be my mentor, kind of.
Yeah, it's also important that you reach out to an advisor before applying, because not all of them are going to be accepting grad students, because they accept grad students based on different things. Like some advisors will only accept grad students if they have a research grant that can, or like funding that can support the student, while others will accept grad students, but you kind of need to find your own funding.
Right. Yeah. That's another big thing. In the US, you sometimes get funded through, grants that hopefully your professor has. You can apply for your own And we're gonna make a video about that, right?
Yeah, and how to apply to fellowships, grants, stuff like that, scholarships.
Yeah, that should also be done before or very close to the start of your program. But you can also work as a GA, as a graduate assistant, if your department does that. And as an international student, that's actually really important because you won't get your visa if you can't demonstrate that you can financially support yourself during the PhD. So you need to hand in, or I actually don't know how they do that. I think you sign a form where you have to demonstrate that. And usually that's pretty easy if you just work for your university. A lot of departments just offer that for you. Then you work for them, teach for them 20 hours a week, and they pay you a teeny tiny stipend. But it's almost enough to live with.
Yeah, I mean, that's also why you want to do research on your program. Once you find an advisor you like, talk to them more about the departments, anything you need to know as an international student. But you should also be asking, what do GAs in that department at that school make? GAs come in two forms. So you have like research assistants. That's kind of more what I was doing when you come in on the professor's grant, or a teaching assistant, what you're doing, where you work 20 hours a week on teaching or grading, stuff like that, coming up with course materials, and then the other like 10 or 20 hours you're working on your research.
Yeah, and I guess research assistantships are much more common in the like earth sciences, STEM fields, whereas teaching assistantships are more common in the humanities.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't have to worry about that even if you haven't taught before. They don't really mind. You get a little bit of an introduction and then you kind of just wing it.
Jump right into it. Yeah. Probably figure it out as you go.
Yeah, which sounds scary, but that's what everyone does. So
I guess the important thing to mention is that usually in the US, TAs make less than other GAs, like research assistants, which is important depending on the area that you're living. So definitely look up the cost of living and whether or not a salary of that for 5 to 7 years is doable. If you're doing a PhD, or 2 to 3 if you're doing a master's. But you definitely want to consider that because as an international student, you're technically not allowed to work any other jobs other than your own university job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only exception is during the summer, but it's doable. And there's always other graduate students that you can ask for help.
Yeah.
That's maybe another really important thing, to contact anyone you can think of, any other grad students in your department, any other international students at your school. Yeah, just to ask for help to see how it is.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like the grad students tell you what the professors won't. It's way less intimidating to reach out to grad students. Maybe you think it's kind of weird because they don't really know you. You're kind of a stranger. But I think I've gotten a few from like incoming grad students and I'm always more than happy to help because you've been in their shoes and like, I think it's super beneficial.
Yeah, I agree. I always felt like, oh, they probably have enough work to do. Like, I don't want to.
It's going to delete the email. But no, something like that. Like,
like I don't want to be a burden to them. But yeah, definitely reach out.
And yeah, you're probably not the only international student there, so they can kind of guide you.
Yeah, also for things like housing, because finding a place to live is really hard if you're not there.
Familiar,
if you don't know where.
Yeah, moving to an island could be tricky.
Yeah, or if you don't get to visit the places beforehand too. And yeah, if you don't have your visa yet or something like that. So asking people where to live, where they recommend living.
Yeah, just simply like, oh, where do most of the grad students tend to live? I know my advisor told me like a few different neighborhoods around campus that are pretty like student friendly.
Right. Do you want to live in the dorms or not?
Yeah.
At some schools, that's really what you should do. In other schools, maybe not so much. They are on the more expensive side usually, though.
Yeah, definitely. And you can probably find a much cheaper place just reaching out to some other grad students. You know, people are constantly finishing their master's or PhD, so moving out and new people move in. So maybe they're looking for roommates.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, so how should you start if you do think, okay, graduate school sounds cool.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Where do you begin?
Yeah, where do you begin?
So I guess the beginning, first things first, you need a research idea. Yeah, so you want to go to grad school, that's fine, but why do you want to go to grad school? What do you want to study? What area, general area, like interests you? So first, you want to kind of like narrow down a topic. It's okay to start really, really big, like, oh, I'm interested in marine ecosystems or like in conservation. And then you start reading about the most recent conservation topics, searching on Google Scholar, just marine conservation, search by like most recent, so you can see recent work that's been done in the field, or like second language studies, language learning, using virtual reality, something like that. Yeah, then just read papers, take notes. I feel like that's how I found it. I used Google Scholar a lot.
Yeah, I think Google Scholar is actually a really good starting point because that's also how you find the most prominent researchers in the field.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so just have a look at whose name maybe appears more often.
Yeah, like if you're looking at anything marine or oceanography, you're going to see that a lot of the research is done at maybe Scripps, UC San Diego, Miami, Hawaii. That's what I kind of noticed. And then from there, maybe you don't have specific like researchers, but you notice that like these schools are coming up a lot in areas that I'm interested in. So you can go to the university websites, search by the departments, and then the department usually tries to do a good job of like showcasing what research their faculty are doing. So checking out that. And yeah, just really browsing the websites, looking if there's projects that are interesting to you. I think that's what I mostly did.
Yeah, I know definitely that my department website isn't the best because I looked at the faculty and it was the most general statements. It was just, I'm interested in bilingualism. And I was like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I am interested in it. And now that's exactly what I'm doing because I just didn't really know what this person does. But maybe the best thing to do is then going back to Google Scholar and typing in the faculty names and see what they recently published. And actually, take your time to look through and see if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, honestly, for some of the schools, I was just going like professor by professor, and then you kind of like cross off the list like, these aren't really interesting to me, and like maybe I can look into these specific papers.
Right,
by these people.
Definitely. Yeah, once you find something that is even slightly interesting to you, or something where you think, okay, I can build off of that, or I want to do something related to this.
Yeah.
Then you start looking at, okay, what requirements do they even have for applying there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's maybe the next big thing.
Yeah, so if you're looking at PhD, you want to see whether or not there's a master's requirements, because I know in oceanography, typically if you don't have a master's, you're coming straight from a bachelor's to a PhD, you're automatically put on a master's en route, where you would do a master's, but you can also bypass it. But that's something that your committee needs to approve once you're like 2 years in. So you can go straight to the PhD in some fields, but I think yours requires a master's, right?
Yeah, for mine, you definitely need to have a master's in a related field. And then usually they list which fields count as related, but especially for international students, that doesn't really align with what you have in your country. Yeah, so I was in a language teaching program or language teacher program in Germany, and I had never even heard of all the programs they listed as requirements for
you're like,
yeah, like, am I even allowed to apply here? But yeah, if it's anything related, it doesn't hurt to ask. There's usually some email address where you can ask, but yeah, usually anything related should be okay. It can happen that they say you have to do a master's first because maybe they think that your focus wasn't specific enough to what that department is doing.
But yeah, that's why it's also really, really important with international students. You want to save your syllabi. Yeah, so you can tell them like, oh, these are the classes I've taken, these were the learning outcomes, this is the grade I got.
Yeah, and that is especially hard for international students because in many countries you don't have a syllabus. I know in Germany we don't, so it was really difficult, and I actually didn't succeed in telling my department what classes I took. So I was lucky that I went to the University of Alabama before, because my department was kind of accepting the classes that I took there, even though my classes back home were way more extensive. But because I didn't really have a syllabus which states the learning learning outcomes, which states
The like topics covered, I guess.
the readings covered, all of that. So I couldn't really make a case for me having fulfilled the requirements. But yeah, that's also something that you can talk to your advisor for once you have one, or to other grad students, or whichever email address is listed.
Yeah.
Usually everyone's really helpful.
I guess the next thing is transcripts too, right?
Yeah, your transcripts all have to be in English.
Yeah, I know usually you need official or unofficial transcripts. I think unofficial's fine for the most part until you're actually accepted. Then you need official ones before you can start at a university.
And they have to be sent from your school.
From your school, yeah, to the university that you're going to be going to. Yeah. And all of that costs money, actually.
Yeah.
I forget how much it is, but it probably varies.
I think my school actually did it for free because we don't really do that usually.
Yeah.
So my school was just like, okay, I guess we can send it to them. Just give us the address.
That's lucky.
Yeah, that's lucky, but it also took a lot of time to go to my university and tell them what they had to do because that was just a standard routine for them.
The transcripts, and you need to get them transcribed?
Translated?
Translated.
Yeah, I would hope that your university has English ones. Mine did.
Okay.
But if they're not, you have to have them translated, and that also costs money because you have to go to an official translator. But yeah, fingers crossed that you don't have to do that and your school has official English ones.
Next thing.
Do you reach out to your advisor then?
Yeah, you definitely, once you start narrowing down your research topic and potential advisors, you want to start emailing them. And we're going to make a whole video on how to email professors because you want to do this in a way that shows that you're serious about doing this research in grad school. You've done the readings. You know a little bit about the research they do.
Yeah, this one's an important one.
And yeah, like you outlined your previous academic and research experiences and how you would be like a great addition to that person's research group. So
yeah, that is maybe the most important part.
Yeah, this is the most important part. You want to make it a good email because professors are extremely busy and get tons of these emails every application round. Like we get so many emails and I delete like 80% of them maybe. Yeah, but we'll do a whole video on how to email professors so that you guys crush it. Yeah.
Or for international students especially, it's important to, tell them what you've done before. And because things don't really translate well, like not even your high school diploma translates well into English. So you have to look for what is the closest equivalent. So if you're from Germany, if you're here from Germany and you did your Abitur, then it's probably closer to an international baccalaureate rather than just a high school diploma. But if you're not from Germany, got a different diploma at the end of your school, you have to look it up.
Find the equivalent.
The closest equivalent. And then the same for your bachelor's degree, same for your master's degree if you did something like that.
Yeah, you want to attach like your CV. We'll do a whole thing on how to write your CV.
Yeah, it stands for curriculum vitae, and it's similar to a resume. It just lists everything you've done in your life.
Similar to a resume, but a resume is typically one to two pages. Yeah.
Your CV is everything.
Yeah, the longer the better. You want to name every research experience, at least in the beginning, compared to being a professor where you can be a little bit more selective.
Yeah, you can pick the most important.
Yeah, so you want to mention all of your research you've done, any jobs or positions that you held that are kind of academic, maybe.
Any poster presentations, anything.
Poster presentations, symposiums, conferences you spoke at. Papers if you have papers.
Yeah. And then
any scores actually. So that's another thing. Like GRE scores are kind of going out the window now, but some programs might still require them. This is just a standardized test, similar to the SAT. I guess if you guys are international students, maybe you don't know what that is, but a standardized test that kind of tells you a little bit about like your reading comprehension, writing skills, and math and science, maybe.
Yeah, the GRE you might have to take, even though like
it really is going out the window, but some, I think maybe more competitive schools still require them.
Yeah, so how do you take them as an international student?
Yeah.
In the US, you would just go to test centers, and kind of every university or every bigger city has one or multiple test centers. But abroad, you can also find test centers.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but also bigger universities have GRE test centers, which is pretty nice. And I think since COVID made it kind of big, that you can also take them at home online. There are a few requirements. You have to kind of
turn your computer around or something.
Yeah, I think they check like if everything's fine, the lighting has to be good, like the recording quality has to be okay.
Yeah.
You need like a stable internet connection. But they walk you through the whole process. So you can take your GREs online and you prepare for them usually just by looking up GRE practice resources.
Yeah, there's so many online resources. There's physical books that you can buy.
Don't buy them.
No.
No, you don't need them.
No.
But yeah, look up any resource on the internet for GREs.
Mm-hmm. And your scores aren't that important. No one cares about your GRE scores. Just when you're applying, and usually it's just the minimum requirement. So as long as you don't score terribly low, no need to worry. And it's also important to note that the latest that you should be taking any GRE is around November. It's kind of like your last chance to get scores back in time to send to universities.
To apply for which semester?
To apply for fall.
You have to do your GREs in November?
In November, yeah.
To get the scores for August?
Like November is the last GRE date that you can take it.
For
fall, because you need to submit applications typically in December or January, sometimes early November. And then they make decisions from like March to April.
Oh, wow.
Then you start in August. That's
almost a whole year before.
Yeah.
That's not what I did.
No?
Yeah, don't recommend. But also, as an international student, there's more tests.
More tests.
Yeah, because you also have to show that your English is good enough.
Yeah, because your program is going to be in English if you come to the U.S.
Yeah, so you have to take the TOEFL test.
TOEFL.
You call it TOEFL test.
I think it's TOEFL.
TOEFL.
Really?
Yeah.
TOEFL.
You can also take it at any test center in Germany. Just look up TOEFL test centers. Yeah.
What is the test like?
Yeah, you can also take it at home, I think. And yeah, the test is, I think, some writing, some reading, some listening, some speaking.
Okay.
That one also is totally doable, especially if you had English all throughout high school. Same thing, there are study materials online. Yeah, you do have to speak, which is kind of weird if you're in a test center and you just have to, I don't know, speak to the microphone when people are next to you on their computers.
Oh, that is kind of weird. Yeah.
And yeah, if you have questions about it, you can also ask. And we can help you, or I can help you with the TOEFL test.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing, if you don't score too well on your TOEFL test, you might still get into the university, but then you have to take English language classes.
I see, okay.
Yeah, then they just put you in a listening and speaking class and a reading class.
So there's hope.
Yeah.
If you don't pass or your score is not great. Okay. And then also reaching out to the international student services, because I feel like they can probably help you with a lot of those questions too.
Right. Yeah. And every school is a little bit different, especially when it's about maybe tax requirements and residency requirements, all of that. Every state is different in the US. So the international student services can help you the most for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say you found someone you want to work with, you fulfill all the requirements, right?
Yeah.
Now you have to actually hand in your application. When did you say was a good time to apply?
So if you're applying for fall, because most schools in the U.S. admit students in fall, some do fall and spring, but mostly fall with a start date in August or September. So most of those applications on the early end will be due around Thanksgiving, which is November, usually throughout December, and there's some in January. There's also some with rolling admission. That just means you can submit it kind of whenever.
But you should be on the earlier end.
Yeah, you should always be on the earlier end.
Yeah, so November is the sweet spot for you to hand in your application. And what do you usually need?
You'll need your online application, usually a portal that you're going to sign in with an email, password. It'll ask you basic information about yourself, your previous academic history. Sometimes you can upload transcripts.
It'll also ask your race.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is really odd. But
Yeah.
if you're just European, not from Spain, I guess.
You're
then-
white or Caucasian.
Yeah, you have to put white or Caucasian.
Yeah. But yeah, they do ask for like the basic information about yourself. And then you're also going to have a writing piece, which is called a statement of purpose. Can also be called personal statement, statement of objectives, or statement of intent. Really pay attention to what the title of it is. There's usually a prompt that goes with it because they kind of focus on different things. But the most important things are, what are you interested in? What do you want to get your PhD in? What is your previous academic background? What research experience or jobs have you done that helped prepare you to do well in this graduate program?
Talk about what you're intending to do, what you want to reach with this PhD.
And then like, why that school? Why is that school a good fit for you? And why are you a good fit for that school?
And then what else is there?
You're gonna need a CV. We mentioned that
said.
earlier. You're gonna need 2 to 3 letters of rec. This also varies depending on the program.
Yeah, what
But
is
usually
that?
2, sometimes 3. So these are letters from, they could be professors, previous mentors, supervisors, kind of anyone that you have a good relationship with.
That you've worked with.
Yeah, professionally you've worked with or taken a class with. Yeah, and you really want to make sure that they can write you a strong letter of recommendation that's detailed, specific, that speaks to all the things that you mentioned
And that
in
is
your
in English.
CV. Yeah, and in English. That's also probably challenging.
Yeah, you have to find someone who is comfortable enough to write an English letter about you. And they have to submit it.
Yeah, usually
You just put in the email address of them.
yeah, it'll send them a link and they do everything else on their end. You don't see the letter, unfortunately.
Yeah, so they get the instructions. So
Yeah.
pick wisely.
Yeah, choose wisely.
What else do you need?
You're going to have to pay an application fee, which could be anywhere from like $50 to $150, depending on the school, I think. But that adds up quickly if you're applying to multiple PhD programs or master's programs.
And it's non-refundable, so you will never see those $100 again. But yeah, that's maybe it.
Cool.
Good luck with applying.
Yeah, good luck.
You can do it. Well, I don't have that much air in my lungs right now.
Deep breath.
Okay, how to apply for grad school as an international student.
I'm getting really sleepy for some reason.
Yeah, hopefully this was a helpful video to you. Let us know if you have any other questions. You can message us on Instagram.
Or leave a comment below, and we'll do our best to help you.
Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, thanks.
Check out our other videos.
They'll be posted here, maybe.
Yeah, look for a playlist for how to apply to graduate school.
Good luck.